Hey guys, so today I'm going to demonstrate how to create a private connection between the Equinix Fabric software-defined network and Azure Cloud leveraging an ExpressRoute circuit. So I'm going to start in the Azure portal, and you can see here that I've created a minimal ExpressRoute circuit with Equinix as the provider, 50 megabits of bandwidth defined in the East US Azure region. And our peering location is our Ashburn/Washington, D.C. campus. You can see that detailed here. You can see here this message that I need to initiate the provisioning process with the service provider, that being Equinix in this case. So in order to do that, I need to grab the service key for the ExpressRoute circuit, and so I'm just going to do that now. I'm going to copy that, and now I'm going to jump over to the Equinix Fabric portal, and I'm just going to click Create Connection here, and I'm just going to scroll down, and you can see I have Microsoft Azure as a selection option here. I'm going to select that and use commercial Azure ExpressRoute. Click Create Connection. You can see the steps here. Again, I need that service key that I grabbed over in the Azure portal. I'm going to walk through the workflow to create the Equinix Fabric connection, and then I'm going to leverage the Azure portal to complete the peering configuration as the last step. And so let's go create Azure ExpressRoute here. Up at the top, you can kind of see a rudimentary diagram that will fill in as I walk through the workflow. Azure does require two connections for connecting via ExpressRoute into an Azure cloud region, and so we'll see that here in a bit. But the first thing I'm going to do is plug in the Azure subscription key. You can see it being validated there, and then like I talked about in the Azure portal, you see Ashburn, our Ashburn, Washington, D.C. metro as the location defined by the key, and that connection speed of 50 megabits. So on the Equinix side, I'm going to leverage ports to initiate the connectivity here, the connections. So I'm going to go over to Amer. Now I could do a local connection in Ashburn, leveraging ports there. What I am going to do is show how a remote connection works. It essentially works the same. It's just establishing a local connection or a remote connection over the Fabric backbone. And so I choose Chicago here. I pick up a primary port for the primary connection. And you can see the redundant origin here. I'm going to choose the secondary port. Now, if I chose the primary port, I get a warning because while I have two connections, they're running over the same physical port, which is a single point of failure. So Equinix always recommends dual diverse ports, primary, secondary, to establish diverse connections over. So I'm going to go back and choose that secondary port. And you can see the pricing there, and I'm going to hit next. I'm going to start configuring these connections, give them names, primary, secondary, and give them VLAN IDs. These is what I'll use or define on my edge devices through subinterfaces, on the subinterfaces. Private peering, I'm going to leave the seller CTAG assignment on the Azure portal side, and I'm going to click next here. And you can see just everything I entered. Right? So I'm just confirming that this is all correct. You can see that kind of high-level diagrams all filled in here at the top. And I'm just going to go submit this order. And so this will get submitted, and I can go look at the provisioning status here. To my email address, there are notifications going that the request was submitted. When this on the Equinix side, when things all kind of get provisioned, you'll see another notice. But if I look at the detail of these, there's our connections. And I kind of say, well, what happens now is the status says pending BGP, because I have to go over to the Azure portal now And, define my VLAN on that side, create the peering entry there. So in order to do that, I have to click this sync BGP peering here. And so this is started, right? So now, there's API integration going on in the background, and there's communication back and forth. And you can see that as I look at this again, it's still going to say pending BGP. But now I go over to the Azure portal, and if I refresh this, that message about initiating the connectivity on the Equinix side should have gone away, and it has. So I'm going to go here and start configuring my peering on the Azure side. So 13531 is Equinix's peer ASN here. And I'm just going to configure a couple of private IP blocks that you'll use for kind of edge device assignment, if you will, and what will get assigned to the edge routers for the ExpressRoute edge. And let's see, we will do 16.2.0/30. I'm just going to choose an arbitrary VLAN ID, the C tag, if you will. On the Azure side, if we wanted an additional level of security, we could have defined a shared key, but I'm simply going to save this. Now here, guys, I would, typically just walk away, let this complete, and come back, because literally we only have a couple of more mouse clicks. What's happening here is kind of provisioning's being completed, but we're going to wait here for a second. I just want to try and speed this along if I can for purposes of the demonstration here. So we'll let this complete. I'll go back to the Equinix portal, and we should see the sync BGP peering appear again, and we have to hit this a second time to kick off kind of the automated provisioning or handshake between the two sides, if you will, to complete this. So we can go back and continue to monitor this, and you can see that the peering changes were saved. So I can go back to the Equinix portal and refresh this. And I should see that now I can sync BGP peering again. Now again, I can kind of get up and let this kind of run on its own, but I am going to go back in and look at these connections. And now it's saying that everything's provisioning, right? You can see these messages up top, but I can continue to refresh here. The Azure side is done. Everything's provisioning on the Equinix side. And so, like I said, this is going to take a couple of minutes here. I'll just kind of keep refreshing intermittently. And we should see a couple of boxes appear here that say delete primary connection, delete secondary connection, which means that they're done provisioning. And so, like I said, just trying to speed this along by continuing to refresh the interface. And you can see the primary is provisioned. See that delete primary connection. And pretty soon after, we should see the secondary connection complete as well. On the Equinix side, still provisioning, that's fine. And you can see it's there. Okay, so we've now completed the peering between Equinix and Azure. And now what you would do is go back to the Azure portal, define a VNet, create an ExpressRoute gateway, and then start establishing your routes from your private network on over to the Azure VNet or over to the Azure cloud.